good night. Have one John tonight. God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Irma Michelle Spirit Divine. I'm here to give you a word on today, on tonight. And the topic gonna be a mother request. A mother request. Now this topic about a mother request for her two sons to speak to Jesus without understanding. So this mother who wanted only the best for her sons. She thought she had a good request, but it was misguided and ambition. Because she thought it was power to the kingdom. You know, she only figured if she can get her both of her sons, if Jesus can get both of her sons that position, or to be in high position with him in the kingdom, she was just being ambition, looking for her son to have power. And kind of find out it was the sons get her the ideas from overhearing the disciples arguing about position of the kingdom. So this story is coming from Matthew chapter 20, verse 20 through 28. So this mother kneeling down to Jesus with her two sons asking Jesus for favor. She approached Jesus with great respect. So she did have respect when she approached Jesus. So she knelt down with her sons, and asking Jesus for a favor. 21, Jesus asked her what you want. She said that one of her sons of these two, or both of her sons of hers to sit at the right and the other at the left in your kingdom. Who asks her questions like that? She want both of her sons to sit on, one sit on the left, one sit on the right. She thinking they're gonna have power, in the kingdom, because the sons heard the disciples talking about authority and power. They overheard a conversation. So the mother of the two sons, James and John, might have heard Jesus say that his disciples will one day be seated on the throne. And see, that's what it was. When they say be seated on the throne, she's just thinking of power. She's thinking of power. So what she asks is huge. She wants Jesus to commit right now. So she asked Jesus for this request. And she wants Jesus to answer her right now, quickly. Asking him, and this is a huge thing that she asking about the kingdom of the throne for her two sons. And she it is understated statement to call this a bold request. Now she was very bold to ask this question. You know, so the mother initiated this conversation. But Jesus considered the son's request. See, Jesus already know it's the sons. Put their mama up to this because they're the one that heard the conversation. So and their mistake. So they considered this. He considered the son's request and their mistake. And they didn't tell their mama the whole story. Just told their mama about power and authority. That's all the disciple was talking about. He overheard. So it was a misunderstanding. Here is between Jesus and these two brothers. So Jesus hold the sons responsible for the request, not their mother. See, he not mad with the mother. He knows the sons. Went to her with overhearing the conversation. Now they didn't tell their mama they overheard a conversation with the disciples. They just went home and told their mom about authority and power, and that's all she was looking at. So 22, you don't know what you are asking. So Jesus said you don't know what you're asking. Jesus said to her, can you drink the cup? I am going to drink, and we can take the answer. So Jesus, so when Jesus told him, can you drink the cup? She said, yes, we can, drink the cup. So they're thinking it's a cup that actually drink they think they was drinking. So Jesus cup, he is talking about what experience suffering of Jesus, to the exact degree and severity of his experience on the cross. So that's what he mean when he said, "Can you take the cup?" They said, "Yeah, we could drink the cup." That's misunderstanding. You know, misunderstanding. The mama had a misunderstanding, but that was on her son's fault. But then the sons have a misunderstanding because they think the cup is something for them to drink. And Jesus said, no, no, this cup is depending on suffering. And suffering him on that cross. So 22. You don't know what you're asking. Um, so Jesus' cup is what he was talking about. Is his suffering on the cross. So the mother don't know what she is saying. In other words, you know, her sons will suffer for Jesus on his behalf. So that's what Jesus is saying. The mother don't know what she's saying. For them to drink that cup, for them to drink that cup, that means they're gonna suffer for Jesus on that cross. So that means what, Jesus don't have to do it. The son's gonna sit on and take all this suffering. So she came to Jesus with a request without understanding. Instead of her asking what the power of the kingdom mean to her. That's what she should have asked. But she went for a request to Jesus without understanding. So mother don't know what she's saying. In other words, her son will suffer for Jesus on his behalf. And she knows she don't want her sons to do it. 23, Jesus said to them, "You will indeed drink from my cup, but to sit at my right and left is not for me to grant." So Jesus telling her, "You giving me a request that I can't grant you that answer." So these places belong to those for whom they have been prepared by his Father. So the kingdom is for God. And so Jesus tell her, I can't make those decisions. So Jesus had come to plant the seed of the kingdom of heaven, the eternal kingdom over which he would reign forever. So he reigning it forever. So he telling her he can't make that decision for both of your sons to be in the kingdom. You know, um, God is the only one make those decisions. He the only one to put your name on the spot. In the kingdom. You remember when I preached on months ago about his disciples. Now, a couple of disciples already had their name written in heaven. God had a spot for them, and that's what he power was listening to. So that's what the disciples fussing about. Who gonna get that position? But I know months ago I had preached on a couple of disciples got their name already written in there, and so that's what she looking at. But that's God decision to make. So Jesus was trying to explain to her he can't make those decisions. His father is the only one putting names on the kingdom, and she asking him to for a request something he cannot answer for her. So, sorry that. So Jesus had told the brothers he did not have the authority to grant their request. Now God the Father would decide that. And which is true. Our Heavenly Father decides those decisions. So Jesus could not make that decision for her and her sons. So the disciples had an argument among themselves. Thinking of the position of power in Jesus' political kingdom. So on earth, and the brothers heard. See, the brother heard the conversation. He heard the disciples and them arguing among themselves. He heard so that what the mother got, that misguided ambition. The mother heard and questioned Jesus without understanding. Instead of her questioning her sons, where you get the information from? She didn't question nothing. She just took what she heard from her sons And then she still then asked Jesus about the power of the kingdom. Tell me the meaning of it. She just asked him for a request without understanding anything. So 24, when the ten heard about this, they was mad with the two brothers, because they know he was right there, listening to him, and when brought that conversation to their mama and used their mama to come back and request that to Jesus. So they really thought it was a position of power for them, but it's not like that. So 25, Jesus called them together and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentile law is over of them and their high officer exercise authority over them. Now Jesus gonna always talk in parable. Now that the disciples, they arguing about authority and power. Who gonna get that spot? Jesus about to be leaving. Who gonna get that spot? They arguing about the power. you know. So Jesus pointed to those Gentiles rulers was an example of how to lead. See, he always gonna tell a story. So he said the rulers of Gentile law is over them, and their high officer exercise authority over them. So he pointed to those Gentile rulers was an example of how to lead. That's what he's telling his disciples. Now he was not rejecting the idea of someone being in charge, but yet he calling out Romans demanding to be served and obeyed. So that's what he's telling his disciples, the Gentile rulers. They serve and they obey. And that's what he's trying to tell his disciples. He telling his disciples to show confidence who hold the highest position and the most powerful was spiritual ambition. So that's his disciples also was in power also. That was they were arguing about authority and power. You know, and that wasn't spiritual life. That was unspiritual. So not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. Must be your servant. So this is God's view of what it means to be great. Those who are great exercise authority over them. So and whoever wants to be the first must be your slave. So Jesus had told his ambition disciples. See that his disciples also ambition. Just like the two brothers. So if you want to be great, they must become a servant to others. And see, that's what he meant. He always talking parables. But the answer is, whoever wants to be first must be your slave. And what he's saying, that you must be a servant to others. So remember, Jesus always telling his disciples, don't look up over people. Just like at the supper. Remember, he washed and cleaned all their feet and let him know, I don't think I'm more than y'all. Because I can sit here and I'm washing all y'all feet. So that's what he's telling his disciples. Always be a servant to someone else. Don't always just think you got so much power and that you're looking over someone else. So if they will be the first, they must become slaves to each other. And remember, Jesus said that as an example at the Lord's table. He washed all their feet. And Jesus had told them, you see how I'm washing your feet? I need y'all to start washing each other's feet. I need y'all to just start being a servant to someone else. Don't think you in power, and thinking you're over someone that you can't do the same thing that someone else can do for you. So he said, who will be the first? There must be a slave to each other. Talking about this disciple. They had to be slaves to each other. Who were willing to lead the life of a servant or slave if you really want greatness. Can you remember the acts up here? Who wants to be great? They must become a servant to each other. So a life of a servant or a slave if you really want greatness. So on 28, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. So Jesus came here, um, not to be served. Because he don't be worried about nobody trying to serve him. But he come to serve. He don't worry about nobody bow down to him and serving him. He come down here to spread. He came down here as a seed to spread that word all over the world and also to serve to others. Because he washed the disciples' feet. He does everything. He wasn't willing. He wasn't looking for somebody to serve him like he a master. That's why he had told disciples, "Why y'all calling me master?" It kind of puzzled him. He had to look around when they kept on calling him master. That's when he came up with the idea. Let me wash all y'all feet. Since y'all calling me master. So he wants them to serve each other. You know, that's your greatness. That's your greatness. When you serve others and not always looking for someone to serve you. And see, that was Jesus' point right there. Because see, long as he was on earth, he wasn't looking for someone to serve him. You know, Mary had chose to put perfume on his foot. Wipe it with her hair. Just serving him. But he don't catch him up for someone serving him. He didn't come down here to be served. He come to serve. So without understanding and misguiding ambition from the mother and the disciples. So we see disciples had ambition too of being in power and position in the kingdom, and that's what the two boys got their information from the disciples. So the mother got the idea from her sons, and her sons heard the disciples arguing about the position of power of the kingdom. Two, the mother had ambition of power for her son. She wanted nothing but the best for her son. And when she heard about power, she didn't need to hear nothing else. All she heard was power, and that's all she needed to hear was power. And she loved her boys, and she wanted the best for her boys. She didn't ask no questions. That's what made her ask Jesus something without understanding. She didn't ask her sons no question either. She just heard what her son said and took it to Jesus. So three, Jesus had to explain if they would drink of his cup. So they thought Jesus was talking about drinking, regular drink from the cup. That's another thing of without understanding. So they kept asking questions without understanding. Sometimes you gotta put your pride on the side, because sometimes people call you slow when you're asking questions and stuff. But it's best to ask questions than not to ask questions. Sometimes you gotta put your pride on the side and ask questions. And sometimes the question might be simple, and you be asking questions and it might be simple, but for you, I'd rather for someone to ask questions than not to ask questions. She didn't ask no question at all. She just took what her son heard, and the sons took what they heard, and just went on and on. You know, so they had lack of understanding of the cup. They thought it was just drinking cup. The cup, the cup was pain and suffering. So and they also, so so Jesus said, "Y'all gonna drink from this cup?" They said, "Oh yeah, we gonna drink from that cup. Yeah, just give me some. I drink from that cup." So Jesus had to explain to them, it's not no drinking cup. It's pain and suffering. Is you gonna suffer for me? Is you gonna get on that cross for me? So that's what Jesus was saying. Jesus had to explain to them, this ain't no cup for you to drink. Ain't no coffee or no tea up in this cup. This cup means pain and suffering. Is you gonna take my pain and suffering on that cross? So now the mother thought it was a drink. And Jesus' cup, he was saying, is suffering. So Jesus said his Father of God has authority and power to make that decision of putting your name in heaven. You getting a throne. So Jesus let them know, that don't come from me. I can't give you that request. That's that. My husband, my heaven and father. He make those decisions. You know, for now she asked questions without understanding. You know, first she heard from her son. She ain't asking a question. All she heard was power. That's all she needed to hear. So some people have so much ambition on power. As she had asked no question, all she needed to hear was power, and she wanted the best for her son. So she figured she'll ask Jesus to put her sons on the throne. If they're gonna get the position, you know. So Jesus like if they're gonna drink this cup. So she asked question without understanding. She had ambition and power for her sons. So far. Now before she asked Jesus, she should not put her she should put her pride on the side and ask Jesus what all this stuff mean first. Instead of getting so into it and she was misguided. She misguided of position, power of the kingdom. So Jesus telling her, I can't give you that request. My Father is the only one prepare a seat for someone and have their name written in heaven. You know, so we see Jesus wasn't mad with the mother, but he was mad with the two sons who misheard a conversation and had their mama to do their dirty work. And that's how some people is. They'll hear something, but they're not gonna question nothing. They'll have someone else to do the dirty work. So they come and tell their mom, knowing that she must was the kind of mama, that you tell her something, she grabbing your hand, come on, we're going back to this school. Tell me everything that she said. And that to seem like that's the kind of mama, they had. They told the mom the conversation. And they ain't even tell the mama conversation what they heard with the disciples. They just came home and talk about the power, position, and the kingdom. So they told it to the mama because they wanted the mama to go question Jesus, to put them in a position because really they thought it was a position of power. So they both had misunderstanding approaching Jesus. And then when Jesus started telling them about the cup, that was another misunderstanding because they thought it was a drinking cup. You know, so I ask plenty questions. I don't care, because some people have pride because they don't like to ask questions because sometimes people call you slow and retarded and everything else when you asking a simple question. So some people don't like to ask questions. They'll just take their lick or try to find out a solution somewhere or another. Because that's what I read somewhere. They say, that she need to put her pride on the side and she should have asked questions. She ain't asked her son no question. She should have asked them some questions. A position of what? What kind of power? The king. They didn't know anything. They didn't know anything. You have to die to go to the kingdom. You can't just automatically just think you can just go up there. And she wanted Jesus to help her. You know, but that come from our heavenly Father. He make those decisions. So the mother had a request. The mother had a request of being ambition, of power. She was misguided by her son. Instead of her asking her son's question, she just jumped on it, and went straight to Jesus. She bowed down on her knees and asked Jesus for a favor. So Jesus said, what you want? She said, I want my sons in a position of the power on the kingdom on your left and your right. So Jesus was like, I can't give you that request, because that's come from my heavenly Father. So sometimes we have to put our pride on the side. If it's a question needs to be asked. Ask a question if you don't know. Whatever I don't know, I ask questions. I'm not gonna do something wrong without asking a question. So sometimes you gotta put your pride on the side. It's stuff that you don't know. Just ask questions. Don't worry about the name calling. Don't worry about, put your pride on the side and ask questions if the question needs to be asked. Because it was two conversations that there was misguided and had the wrong understanding. You know, so she had an understanding that she can put her sons in position for power. She trying to help them get a job or something. But she didn't tap up no resume or nothing like that. But she just going to Jesus like she going for them for to have a job. That I want them to be in a position of power in your kingdom, on your left and your right. So she demanding these things and what she want. And she wanted Jesus to answer her quickly, right then and now. So that's all the word I have for you today. It is always when you want to ask someone a question, and you feel like you think you don't know, put your pride on the side and ask the question. Even if you think the question is just small, it's best for you to ask the question with things meaning before you just blow your mouth out and just asking something without understanding. Get understanding first of what you're asking about. Don't be like this lady here. She pretty much was ambition over power. Wasn't even trying to find out the meaning of the kingdom and the throne. So that's all the word I have for y'all tonight. And y'all have a blessed night, and I see y'all in the next video.